and I don't know if you struggle with this, keep those inner critics who want to come leaping out. You got to keep them quiet. You got to give them another job to do, because inner critics and or inner evaluators or judges or the part of ourselves that's not as on board with the creative work or whatever we're trying to manifest, they will come leaping out and they can derail us. So usually there's going to be some work around minimizing them, silencing them in order to get that big goal done.
Hello, everyone. I am Melissa Forziat of Take the Doughnut, here to help you get inspiration and get donuts. I'm a motivational keynote speaker, and today I'm bringing you a Take the Doughnut interview with Michele Berger, who is she's a Creative Tickle and is a creativity coach, writer, professor, and pug lover. Welcome, Michele.
Hello, Melissa. I'm so happy to be here. I was just saying in the chat that I am a donut lover, and I used to work at Dunkin' Donuts a long, long time ago, and I get like donut lust periodically. So
This is a really good sign, right? Because as somebody who worked in a place that is a purveyor of donuts, that you still love them speaks volumes. That's so good. Well, I mean, with that in mind, let's start with a simple question. What's your favorite donut?
I am a classic glazed donut person. I just, yeah, I appreciate very fancy donuts, but like a good glazed donut and the yeasty kind, not the cakey kind. I'm all about that. That's my thing. That's my jam.
Okay, that's the way to go. And this is spoken like a true donut professional here. I love it. Well, I said just a little bit about you to start us off, but tell us more about yourself. What should we know about you?
So I am all the things that you said. I feel like I wear all the hats. I am someone who's deeply, deeply passionate about creativity. So I started my coaching practice called the Creative Tickle, which are my tagline is tickle your genius awake. And people usually smile when I say that. And it's really about this fun, playful approach to creativity. So getting people to think differently about their inner critics or their inner judges and getting away from that perfectionism, procrastination kind of continuum. And I'm also a creative writer, and I primarily write speculative fiction, but I am known to also write poetry and creative nonfiction. And I love the fact that you do motivational speaking and motivational work, because I also really feel very resonant with inspiration, motivation, finding and supporting people, finding ways to support people and how to live, better lives related to what their larger goals are.
Oh, this is wonderful. And it sounds like it comes across in a number of different mediums for you. So that's wonderful. So to reset this for people who've never
Yeah.
seen a Take the Doughnut interview before, why are we talking about donuts? Well, because we both love them, first of all, but also for me, Take the Doughnut is an expression which means the same thing as carpe diem. It all comes from this
Mhm.
very strange thing that happened to me in college where I left an actual donut on a table, but then that became an object lesson for me in what it looks like to leave opportunity behind. So I don't want to do that anymore. I want to take the donut. I'll link a video here for those who haven't heard that full story before. But basically, this conversation is all about going after what you want in life and, practically speaking, what that really looks like. So the first question I have on that for you is, how are you with going after goals? What is that process like for you?
I am, I think, a recovering goal setter. And for me, goal setting is important, but I think I grew up in an era where people had this idea that you had to set goals a certain way. And if you didn't do it in a very type A way, if you didn't know exactly what you want going in, going hard for it all the time, then you're not going to get it. And I've just found that goals should spark us. They should be creative. They should give us a chance to express who we are. And sometimes part of the journey is seeing that your goals shift and change. So like I said, I'm a recovering kind of hardcore goal setter. And now I just try to say, how do I want to embody this next part of my life, right? If I'm aspiring after something, I'm trying it on and I'm doing that kind of mental rehearsing. I'm doing that creative visualizing and trying to get that inner feel. Because so much of sometimes for goal setting can be about, well, I should go after this because everyone is saying that I would be good at that or that's something I should want. So just trying to, I think in the last couple of years, make peace with a more gentle, refined way, at least for me, for goal setting. But I love thinking about productivity. I love thinking about what's going to motivate people for goals. So when I work with clients, I get a better sense of, kind of what motivates them in terms of goals. Is it like going after the big, scary, oh my goodness, I if I get it, it's just going to change my life? Or is it I'm going to take kind of incremental steps to achieve what I want?
Hmm. I like that I never thought about it in the way that like the way we've thought about going after goals is very type A. And I like that you break it down in different ways for people with different mindsets and, different needs around that. So it's an interesting thing to think about. How can you be more flexible in an approach versus being type A with it if you don't want to be type A with your goals?
And it's totally fine. I think also there are times in our life where we're like, we want to be incredibly focused and we want to challenge ourselves and we want to do it in a particular kind of way. And so there's nothing wrong with that. And there's nothing wrong with that approach. But I also think it's great if you can anchor it with sounds, sensations, smells, as opposed to just, and sometimes it's because me, I'm like in my head a lot. So I need to break down a goal in that, like feeling it in my body, because I can say certain things, but if you can say like, okay, well, I'm going to go do this. But if your body, that whole book, that book that it's called The Body Keeps the Score, the body doesn't lie. And so I found in my journey that if I'm not in alignment with thinking, with feeling, with doing, then I'm probably not going to meet my goals.
Hmm.
Does that make
Hmm.
sense? Is it?
Yeah, well said. Very well said. Now, okay, so that's this process of setting those goals to begin with. For you, when there's something that you want and it's something big and it's going to take some time and some effort to get there, what keeps you motivated in that
Mm,
process?
mm. A couple of things. So structure and accountability. So I'm someone that I'm very groupular. That's really not a word, but I'm going to use it. I need to feel that I'm advancing and I'm doing it in a way that other people are advancing as well. So I like that accountability. So when I'm doing a really big goal, I'm usually going to do some public accountability, like putting on Facebook, putting on Instagram. Okay, here's what I'm doing. And or I'm going to work with a group of people and we're all going to kind of support each other through that process. The other thing that is important to me that I've learned over time is structure. Because usually, and you know this as a motivational speaker and coach, that people usually need both. They need structure and accountability. So like, when are you going to do this? How are you going to do this? So I have to get very real with my calendar, not the fantasy calendar in my head where I'm like, I have 28 hours a day, but like really saying, okay, time blocking. So I can get very um, granular in terms of that, and also I need a little speed behind it because I get bored really easily. So it's got to be fast, quick, intense with good payoffs for those like really really big goals. Like I just kind of I have to have that structure, accountability, and then I have to get that momentum going, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it sounds like you need a little bit of evidence that you're heading in the right direction. You need to actually see it. Yeah.
Yes. And I need to keep and I don't know if you struggle with this, keep those inner critics who want to come leaping out. You got to keep them quiet. You got to give them another job to do, because inner critics and or inner evaluators or judges or the part of ourselves that's not as on board with the creative work or whatever we're trying to manifest, they will come leaping out and they can derail us. So usually there's going to be some work around minimizing them, silencing them in order to get that big goal done.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. That's for sure. So that may be an answer to this question. but maybe there's something else for
Mm.
this. When you're going after things that you want in life or work or whatever, a lot of times obstacles come up for us, challenges come up. And I'm curious for you if there's a particular brand of challenge that keeps coming up over and over again, no matter what it is you're working on.
Mm. Usually being impatient because, I think, like I was saying, that I like momentum, I like speed. I really have to be more mindful and grounded that things just take, even if I'm ready for everything to happen, things have a kind of particular process, they take time, and kind of having the patience to see something through. And maybe this is something that other people might struggle with, is that, many of us are good at the brainstorming idea phase. We sometimes are good at the intermittent phase or intermediate phase, but really seeing something all the way to execution and what one of my mentors called the gifts of completion, many of us are not good. So we have a lot of half finished projects or three-quarter finished projects. So really taking the time to have the patience to see something through. That's something that I struggle with, in every way, at every kind of turning point in terms of, big goals and moving things forward. And I know later on, well, I'll be able to say something a little bit about my short story collection, which is how we are connected. But trying to move that through the publishing process took more time than I thought it would take. And so just being able to be patient for that. And the other thing, if I could just go back for a minute about what motivates me, this is not more of a planning thing, but I'm motivated from the fact that as a woman of color and as a Black woman, there are so many people who came, before me that weren't able to actualize their goals. Like my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, she would read like 6 newspapers a day when there were a lot of newspapers. She wanted to be a journalist. She tried doing that. She did do some writing in New York City, but the doors just structurally did not open to her. And so I think about the gifts that we have as women broadly now, but also how important it is for women of color, Black women, to speak their creative truth. So that's a huge motivator for me, separate from the actual, the daily things that I have to do or the monthly things that I have to do, if that makes sense.
It does. It definitely does. So, when you think about, especially with what you just said, going back through your life, what was the biggest donut that you ever took? It could be long ago, it could be more recent, but what was the biggest opportunity that you said yes to, or the biggest donut that you took in life?
Mm, it's such a good question. It's such a good question. I'm kind of milling about that. I'm thinking on it.
I don't even know how I would
And
answer that one, to be honest. As many times as I've asked it, I dish it out, but I can't take it.
it's such a good question because I think there are there's different like employment opportunities, there's personal opportunities. I think personally it's between two. One, going to college, I went to a college that I got accepted to sight unseen. I just felt like it was the right thing to do. I mean, I wanted to go to college, but like this particular college, I was a weird liberal arts kid. It was a weird liberal arts school. But it also breaking, I was involved at the time with a man who was like 30 years old. Complicated story, difficult, abusive, kind of inappropriate relationship. And making that break was there's something really powerful about that. And if I hadn't gone to college, it's not that I wouldn't have been successful. I don't necessarily believe that, but I definitely think at that moment I had to get out of New York City and I had to really do something different. So I would say that's one of my biggest
That is
donuts.
huge. People don't often go to places like that publicly when they're answering these questions in the interview, but that's the kind of stuff that, like, it's interesting that you had this colliding of addition and subtraction
Mm,
in your
yeah.
world, and both of those things were actually donuts that you were taking. And I suspect without either one of those, your course would have gone in a very different direction. um but yeah, it's it's just incredible how much strength it takes to do both of those things, and to do them at the same time is wild.
Thank you. And it was in some ways it's good knowing, we have strength and courage at different stages of our lives. So I'm in my early 50s, and actually no, mid 50s. What am I saying? Mid 50s. And so when I think back to the strength and courage and fears that I had in my 20s or 30s, it changes over time. And that's why we need to always be thinking about, taking on different kinds of goals and tasks and donuts, right? Like, because we have, ideally, we have different levels of reserve and courage for things. There are things that don't scare me now that scared me when I was in my 20s, obviously, and vice versa. Things now in my 50s that I need mentorship, or I need to see. I'm really a big believer, if you have to see things in your environment, you have to get mentored or find mentors for you to believe it, for you to do certain things in your life. It's really hard just to sit and envision something that you really have no experience with. I mean, you can do it, but it's great to have those believing mirrors. I don't know if it's Julia Cameron, some creative person said, you need these believing mirrors to mirror back to you your worth, and especially around creativity and pursuing goals.
Yes, yes. So let's take the
Mm,
lens and look at right
yeah.
now, the present day. Is there
Ooh,
a donut that you're
exciting.
taking right now?
I feel like it's funny. I feel like besides getting so the short story collection that's coming out, it took me a while to um put the collection together, to query publishers, and I would get really close to, like, and I'd entered contest for publishing, and I'd get really close. So it took a while, and it landed in the right place, which is Aunt Loot Books, which is amazing. And I know Isis. But right now, so like that's coming out in October. And so my goal, one of my donuts is like, okay, well, the next thing is finding an agent for to sell the next work. And hey, trying to get this into Viola Davis's hands, Shonda Rhimes' hands. I mean, like, why not? Like, right? Like, why not think really, really big? So I think the next big donut is the larger aspiration after the collection comes out. What other adventures can I have as a published writer?
Hmm. Well, you're putting it out there. Let's see what we can do, right? Everybody listening, what can we do? Um, and speaking of everybody who's listening, there may be people who are listening to this who have a donut of their own they want to take. Could be that
Mm,
it's still just an idea for them, or it could be that they've
mm,
started down the road towards it and they're not sure how to move forward from where they are. So let's
mm,
sprinkle some encouragement. And what would you say to those people who have a donut in mind
mm,
and they are trying to figure out what the next step is for them?
I'm a big believer in the power of self-acceptance, self-love, and knowing, and I'm saying this from a place of reminding ourselves that we are worthy and complete already. So sometimes in the creative community, I'll just say we believe, like, if we get X, Y, and Z, it makes us even better and more worthy. It's like, no, we're already worthy. So kind of doing a little bit of that internal work. But I'm also a huge believer of um, positive, either neutral to positive self-talk. So affirmations, really kind of claiming what the outcome is that you want. I'm a big believer in that, and I think it's really powerful. And it doesn't mean you say to yourself, let's say there are writers listening, right? Or creators listening of some type. It doesn't mean you say, well, I believe, my next art show is going to be, at the Met. It doesn't mean you embrace the thing that is so far from your reality, but it can mean that you tell yourself, I'm worthy of my creative efforts, or you say, good things are happening for me for my writing. And you really kind of work at that level, and you say it over and over again, and then you take action. So it's not like you just say something kind to yourself, um, and then never take any action. You have to sort of say the words, say things that are comforting, say things that motivate you, and then take the action. And if I can just say, there's actually research that shows that when we talk to ourselves that in a way that's kind, neutral, and value-based, it can help motivate us. So it's not, a lot of people think about affirmations or positive self-talk as, like I said, the kind of grandiose statements, but it's really more of the, when you have a very negative thought, or if you're in a spiral of negative thoughts, like, who am I to create? No one wants my work. Why should I try to be a motivational speaker? Like those kinds of thoughts, that sort of spiral, having a neutral or positive sense of self-talk can really interrupt that and help kind of get you back on track.
Excellent. Great advice. For those of us who want to follow your journey, where can we find you?
So I'm in a couple of different places. I am on Instagram under Berger, Berger, Michele, Michele 2005, which I know is kind of weird, but come find me. I do stuff on Instagram. I have my own author Facebook page, Michele Tracy, Tracy Berger, and I also blog, and I'm redoing my website at the Practice of Creativity.
Okay. Well, I will put,
and I'm on Twitter, and I'm on a couple places. So
great. I'll put those links in the description. And for those who are interested, go check out those resources. And if you liked this interview with Michele, be sure to like and subscribe on this video, because there's so many inspirational interviews still to come. But in the meantime, Michele, thank you so much for taking some time today and for talking with me, for talking with all of us about taking the donut and going after the things that we want.
oh, thank you so much, Melissa. I had so much fun. And more donuts. I need to have more donuts in my life. That's clearly part of this. Like,
that's the sign. This is the sign, everybody. If you were waiting for one, it's here. It's happened. Okay, everybody, you know what to do. Get inspiration and get donuts. Bye, everyone.